Imagine waking up in the middle of the night for no particular reason. You reach for your phone, and the screen lights up in the darkness. The time reads 7:77, or rather 7:17, but the pattern still catches your eye. Later that morning, you grab a coffee and glance at the receipt. The total somehow ends with 7.77. Hours pass, and as you drive through the city, your eyes briefly land on the license plate in front of you. 777. At first, it feels like nothing. Just a random coincidence your mind happens to notice. After all, numbers appear everywhere in modern life. On clocks, screens, receipts, phone notifications, and street signs. Your brain sees thousands of them every single day. But then something strange begins to happen. You start noticing the same number again, and again, and again. Not once in a while, but repeatedly. Maybe it appears when you check the time. Maybe your phone battery suddenly stops at 77%, while the time reads 7:07. Maybe you scroll through a video and pause it without thinking, only to see the timestamp 7:77 or 7:17 staring back at you. At some point, the question quietly enters your mind: is this really just coincidence? For centuries, ancient mystics, philosophers, and spiritual thinkers believed that numbers were more than simple tools for counting. They believed numbers carried patterns, vibrations, and symbolic meaning, a kind of hidden language woven into the structure of reality itself. Among those numbers, 777 has always held a mysterious reputation. In many traditions, the number 7 represents completion, spiritual awakening, and hidden knowledge. But when the number repeats 3 times, 777, it has often been described as a signal of alignment, a moment when unseen forces are quietly shifting. And now something unusual seems to be happening. Across the internet, in forums, videos, and conversations around the world, people are reporting the same experience. They keep seeing 777 appearing in the most unexpected places, not once, not twice, but repeatedly. Almost as if something is trying to get their attention. Yet here is the strangest part of all. Not everyone notices it. Millions of people move through their daily routines surrounded by numbers, never giving them a second thought. But a smaller group of people claims that once the pattern begins, it becomes impossible to ignore. The number seems to follow them, appearing at just the right moment, almost like a quiet signal. Some believe it's a coincidence. Others believe it's something much deeper. Because throughout history, moments of great change were often said to be preceded by small, subtle signs, patterns that only a few people seemed able to recognize at first. And according to some modern interpretations of ancient symbolism, the growing appearance of 777 may be one of those signals. A signal that something is shifting, something approaching, something that, if the stories are true, may fully reveal itself in 2026. But if that's the case, one question remains. Why do only certain people seem to notice it? Because according to some theories, the people who keep seeing this number are not just lucky observers, they are something else entirely. Some call them the chosen souls. To understand why the number 777 feels so mysterious to many people, we first have to go back thousands of years. Long before modern science, long before digital clocks and phone screens filled our lives with numbers. In ancient civilizations, numbers were not seen as simple mathematical tools. They were believed to carry vibrations, symbolic meanings, and hidden messages about the structure of the universe itself. Many spiritual traditions taught that reality operates through patterns, and numbers were thought to be one of the clearest ways those patterns revealed themselves. Among all numbers, one number appeared again and again in sacred traditions across cultures: the number 7. For centuries, the number 7 was considered a symbol of balance, completion, and spiritual connection. Ancient scholars and mystics noticed how often this number appeared in the natural and cosmic order of things. For example, ancient astronomers once recognized 7 visible celestial bodies moving through the sky: the sun, the moon, and the 5 planets visible to the naked eye. These became known as the 7 ancient planets, and they were believed to influence life on Earth. Even the way humans measure time reflects this pattern. There are 7 days in a week, a cycle that has existed for thousands of years across different cultures and civilizations. In many spiritual systems, the number appears again in the concept of 7 chakras, energy centers within the human body, believed to connect physical existence with higher consciousness. Mystical traditions also speak of 7 stages or levels of spiritual awakening, describing the gradual journey from ordinary awareness toward deeper understanding of existence. Because of these repeating patterns, the number 7 became known as a sacred number, one that symbolized the bridge between the physical world and the spiritual one. But the mystery deepens when the number appears 3 times in a row: 777. In many symbolic interpretations, repeating a sacred number multiplies its energy and significance. Ancient numerology systems believed that when a number repeats in a sequence like this, it represents a moment of amplification, a point where the meaning of that number becomes stronger and more noticeable. For this reason, 777 has often been interpreted as a sign of powerful alignment. Some traditions describe it as a symbol of divine guidance, suggesting that the universe may be subtly directing attention toward something important. Others interpret it as a signal of spiritual awakening, a moment when individuals begin questioning reality and searching for deeper meaning beyond everyday life. Another interpretation sees 777 as the number of hidden knowledge being revealed, a symbol that something previously unnoticed is beginning to come into view. What makes this idea even more intriguing is that several ancient mystical texts and numerological traditions suggested something very specific. They proposed that during certain periods in history, humanity would begin noticing repeating patterns like 777 more frequently. According to these interpretations, such patterns were not random. They were thought to signal the opening of a cosmic cycle, a moment in time when major shifts in human awareness, knowledge, or technology begin to unfold. Throughout history, similar ideas have appeared during times of great change, when societies transformed in ways that people of the past could barely imagine. And today, some researchers and spiritual thinkers believe we may be approaching another one of those moments, a new cycle, a new phase of transformation. And according to some of these interpretations, the year 2026 may be one of those turning points. If that possibility is even partially true, then the growing number of people noticing 777 might not just be a strange coincidence. It might be something else entirely. A quiet signal, a symbolic reminder hidden within the patterns of everyday life. A reminder that the universe may still communicate in ways we are only beginning to understand. Throughout history, certain years have carried a strange sense of importance. Years that, when people looked back on them later, seemed to mark the beginning of something entirely new. At the time, those living through them often had no idea what was unfolding. Life simply continued as usual. But slowly, almost quietly, the world would begin to change. New discoveries would appear. New technologies would emerge. New ways of thinking would begin spreading through societies. And suddenly, everything would feel different. History is filled with moments like these, periods when humanity seemed to step into a new chapter almost overnight. The invention of the printing press transformed how knowledge spread across the world. The Industrial Revolution changed how people lived, worked, and traveled. The digital age connected billions of people through invisible networks that earlier generations could never have imagined. At the center of each of these shifts was a powerful force, change happening faster than anyone expected. Today, many observers believe we may be standing at the edge of another moment like this. Look around at the world today. Technology is evolving at a pace that would have seemed impossible just a few decades ago. Artificial intelligence is beginning to perform tasks that once required years of human training. Machines are learning patterns, solving complex problems, and generating ideas that challenge our understanding of creativity itself. At the same time, the internet has connected people across continents, allowing ideas, beliefs, and perspectives to travel instantly around the globe. Cultures are interacting in ways that were never possible before, creating new conversations about identity, purpose, and the future of humanity. But alongside these technological transformations, something else is happening. More and more people are beginning to ask deeper questions about life. Questions like, why are we here? What is consciousness? Is reality only what we can see and measure? Or is there something more beyond the physical world? Interest in meditation, ancient philosophy, spirituality, and human consciousness has grown dramatically in recent years. People are searching not just for success or comfort, but for meaning. And this combination, rapid technological change mixed with growing spiritual curiosity, has appeared before in human history. In many ancient belief systems, moments like this were thought to represent transitional periods, times when humanity begins shifting from one stage of understanding to another. According to some mystical traditions, these transitions are not always obvious at first. Instead, they begin with subtle patterns, small signals hidden in everyday life that slowly catch the attention of those who are paying close enough attention. These patterns were sometimes described as cosmic symbols, signs that the universe itself operates through rhythms and cycles far larger than human lifetimes. Among those symbols, repeating number sequences have always been considered some of the most mysterious, and in recent years, one sequence seems to appear again and again in conversations about awareness, synchronicity, and hidden meaning. 777. Some spiritual theorists believe that when certain numbers begin appearing more frequently in human awareness, it may reflect a moment when larger cycles of change are beginning to unfold. Not because the number itself creates the event, but because it acts as a symbolic mirror, reflecting shifts that are already happening beneath the surface. If that idea holds any truth at all, then the growing attention around 777 might be connected to something much bigger than a simple coincidence. Because many researchers studying historical cycles believe that the mid-2020s may represent one of the most transformative periods humanity has ever experienced, and right at the center of that period sits a single year, 2026. A year some believe could represent the peak of a global transition, where technological breakthroughs, cultural evolution, and new ways of understanding consciousness begin converging all at once. If such a turning point truly exists, it might explain why certain patterns seem to appear more often to those who are paying attention. But this leads to an even deeper mystery. If 777 is truly a symbolic signal connected to this moment in history, then why do only some people notice it? Why do millions of people move through their daily lives without ever seeing the pattern, while others encounter it repeatedly in the most unexpected places? According to some interpretations, the answer may not lie in the number itself. It may lie in awareness, because sometimes the most powerful signals in the universe are not hidden. They are simply invisible to those who are not looking. And that raises a fascinating possibility. Maybe the people who keep noticing 777 are not witnessing a coincidence at all. Maybe they are simply among the few who are beginning to recognize the pattern. And if that's true, then the next question becomes even more intriguing. What does it mean to be one of the people who sees it? By now you might be wondering something important. If the number 777 really is appearing as a kind of cosmic signal, why do only certain people seem to notice it? Why do some individuals encounter this pattern again and again, while others pass through their daily lives without ever paying attention to it? According to many spiritual thinkers and researchers of human consciousness, the answer may not be about luck or coincidence. Instead, it may be connected to awareness. Throughout history, philosophers have suggested that people move through life at different levels of perception. Some focus only on the surface of things, the practical routines of everyday life. Others, however, begin to notice patterns, questions, and mysteries that seem to exist just beneath the surface of reality. Those who begin noticing these patterns often describe experiences that feel strangely similar. If you've ever wondered whether you might be one of the people who keeps encountering 777, there are a few signs that many people report. Sign number 1. You keep seeing 777 repeatedly. The first and most obvious sign is simple, yet strangely powerful. You keep seeing the number 777 appearing in random places. Maybe you glance at the clock and it reads 7:17 or 7:07, and somehow the pattern stands out to you. Later, you check your phone battery and notice it resting at 77%. You buy something at a store and the receipt shows 7.77 as part of the total. At first, it seems like coincidence, but then it keeps happening. You notice the number on license plates while driving. You pause a video and see 717 in the timestamp. Sometimes the number appears right when you're thinking deeply about your future or questioning something important in your life. It begins to feel less like random chance and more like a subtle pattern, almost like a quiet confirmation that appears at meaningful moments. For many people, this repeated appearance becomes the first signal that something unusual may be happening. Sign number 2. You feel like something big is about to change. Another common experience reported by people who notice these patterns is a strange but persistent feeling. A feeling that something significant is approaching. It's not a sense of fear or panic. It doesn't feel like danger. Instead, it feels more like anticipation. Almost like standing in front of a door that hasn't opened yet. But you somehow know that something important waits on the other side. Many people describe this as a growing awareness that the world itself may be entering a new phase. They notice rapid changes in technology, global conversations shifting in unexpected ways, and new ideas spreading faster than ever before. The future begins to feel less predictable, but also more full of possibility. And when the number 777 appears during moments like these, it can feel almost symbolic, like a reminder that change is part of a much larger pattern unfolding across time. Sign number 3, you feel drawn toward deeper meaning. Perhaps the most powerful sign of all is something that begins to happen internally. People who repeatedly notice patterns like 777 often describe a growing curiosity about life itself. They begin asking questions they may have never asked before. Questions like, why am I here? What is my purpose in this world? Is consciousness simply a product of the brain? Or is there something deeper behind it? Is reality only the physical universe we see? Or could there be hidden layers we don't yet understand? These questions often lead people to explore ancient philosophies, spiritual teachings, meditation practices, or scientific ideas about consciousness and the nature of reality. It's as if noticing the number 777 acts as a small trigger, an invitation to look beyond the surface of everyday life and search for deeper understanding. And while no one can say with certainty what these patterns truly mean, one idea appears again and again in discussions about them. Perhaps the people who keep noticing 777 are not being chosen by the universe in some mystical sense. Perhaps they are simply the individuals who have begun asking the kinds of questions that open the mind to patterns others might ignore. Because sometimes the greatest mysteries are not hidden from humanity. They are simply waiting for someone curious enough to notice them. And if these signs feel familiar to you, then there is one final question left to explore. What happens if the 777 prophecy is real? So now we arrive at the most important question of all. What happens if the 777 prophecy is real? For many people, the word prophecy immediately brings thoughts of disaster, chaos, or dramatic events that suddenly change the world overnight. History has shown that humans often associate mysterious predictions with fear. But what if this time the meaning is completely different? What if 777 isn't warning us about destruction at all? What if it's something far more subtle and far more powerful? Perhaps 777 is not a prediction of catastrophe, but a reminder. A reminder that humanity may be entering a moment where awareness itself begins to shift. Throughout history, there have been moments when people suddenly started looking at the world differently. New discoveries revealed hidden laws of nature. Philosophers challenged old beliefs. Entire generations began asking deeper questions about life and existence. These moments didn't always arrive with loud announcements. Sometimes they began quietly, with curiosity, with awareness, with people noticing patterns that had always been there, but were previously ignored. Maybe the appearance of 777 is part of that same kind of moment. Not a supernatural command, not a secret code controlling the future, but a symbolic signal that invites people to pay closer attention to the world around them, to their thoughts, and to the deeper mysteries of existence. Because the universe has always communicated through patterns, through cycles, through repetition, and sometimes those patterns appear in the smallest, simplest ways. A number on a clock, a receipt in your hand, a random moment where your eyes land on the same sequence again, and again, and again. If that pattern truly means something, then perhaps the people who keep noticing 777 are not chosen. In some mystical sense, maybe they are simply the ones who have begun to slow down long enough to notice the signal. Because the universe rarely shouts its secrets. It whispers them, quietly, subtly, through small patterns hidden in plain sight. And sometimes, those patterns look as simple as a number appearing again, and again, and again. 777.